Oh, hello there. Welcome to the internet. Today we're going to talk about how not to build a SaaS. So, how do I know even how to not build a SaaS? Well, I just built an app called Stellar. If you've been following my channel, you might have seen me making videos about it, which get no views. But we'll talk about that in a second. So, anyways, it has paying users, but I'm still going to be shutting it down or at least pausing my work on it, okay? And in this video, I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain how you can build a SaaS without making these types of mistakes and how I'm going to do it next time. So, this was my first kind of SaaS product, and I basically just had things wrong from the outset. So yeah, in this video, we'll talk about that. So, basically, let's just give you an overview of what this app actually is. So this is what my app looks like on the App Store that I created it on. So if you ever heard of like Shopify apps or like WordPress plugins, my app is kind of the same idea. There's this really popular CRM called High Level, and essentially I was running an agency using this CRM for a while, and there's all these problems, so I decided I would build like an app that's a plugin for the CRM. The cool thing about this is it's kind of like being a barnacle on a whale's back. If you think like a barnacle on a whale's back, as the whale gets bigger, they're going to swim more and the barnacle can eat more. I don't actually understand the analogy that well, I guess, now that I try to explain it. But as the app grows, you're going to grow. All right, that's the point. So I built this app as a plugin. The other bonus of that is people are already using something and your app just plugs in, rather than like if I tried to build some video editing software or something else that people had to like, seek out or have like a problem that's not solved in the rest of their life, which is way harder. So anyways, that's why I built a plugin app. Essentially, what this does is people are making phone calls like through their CRM, and they don't get summaries. Okay, so I guess I could probably show you what that looks like. So if I just go to my own account, then whatever, we'll just see that like phone calls, you can make phone calls, but it just records the phone call. It doesn't actually summarize the call for you. So you can't actually know like what was said without listening to the call or taking notes. And the cool thing about this problem of generating call summaries is that almost nobody is doing it. I posted about this on the Facebook group for High Level, and one guy reached out and he was like, hey, I'm doing a similar thing, but that's it. It's extremely rare that someone's actually doing something like this. And this is kind of my first business where I'm actually doing something that no one has really done before, or at least like very few people have actually done. And because of that, I was like, all right, I can get users by saying like, hey, there's AI call summaries. And then from those users, I can basically upsell them different things. And that was the thinking at first. But let's talk about what the issue actually is. So the issue is that people are installing this, and if you haven't used High Level, this might be a little bit hard to understand. So I'm gonna try to explain it well. Essentially, you have your agency, your whole company, all right? So you can imagine this is like the top level page. And all these are sub accounts. These are all different accounts, different clients, different companies that are using this same software, okay? They're separate, but they're using the same software. So people would install it on their agency account. So we were just in this account, but we can see basically like all the people that are, if I just go to like, this was for my agency, so we can see like all these people that were actually in my pipeline. And like when I was running my agency, I would use this to call people up and try to sell them, right? This was my CRM. And it's great because I'm making phone calls in here and then I'll get call summaries. I don't have to take notes, right? Now, that's pretty cheap. That's pretty affordable. That might only cost, $1 a day or something in terms of summaries, or maybe like $5. But that doesn't make me any money, right? Because I need people to be using the call summaries a lot to actually make money. My hope was that when they install the app, like, let's see if I can just kind of show you that flow. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, So if I uninstall the app really quick, okay, then I'll hit install. And essentially what people were doing is they were going and they were just installing the agency account. So they were only doing one account. So that's not many call summaries. I can't make much money on that. But what I was hoping they would do was do select all sub accounts, and then every phone call on every account would trigger a call summary, which means I would be making revenue because I charge based on the amount of credits that they use. But that wasn't happening. And there's a very good reason why that wasn't happening, and it's because it just doesn't make sense. They know it's going to cost money to add AI call summaries to their clients' accounts, and they're not going to make any money from that directly, you know? Like, that's a very small selling point. If it was an app that did something revolutionary, like had a website or ran ads for them or made calls for them, then you could put that on your marketing and you could increase your cost per acquisition by having a better product. But in this case, it's such a small improvement that it's not actually going to have a solid improvement in the entire agency as a whole, which means people don't install it on their whole account. It makes perfect sense to only install it on your agency account, right? Now, that is the problem, because my hope was that people would install this app on all of their sub accounts, and then when they click on a sub account, they can view all the details that are going to help them manage that client. Okay, so you can see like all the information about like average call length, what percentage of the leads they're calling, how many new contacts were created, all this stuff. And then my plan was to also email this out to people so they could be like, hey, client XYZ isn't calling their leads. You can follow up with them before they churn, right? But of course, that's not actually happening because people, when they install the app, they only, I uninstalled it, so that makes sense why it's not there. But when they when they only install it on one account, it doesn't help, right? Because they're literally only seeing one thing. And check out how freaking sick this sign up process is, installation process. See, it says finalizing installation. This loading bar is completely fake. It's literally just like random math to do it, and then once it completes, then it sets to 100%, and there's a fake 2-second delay to make it look legit, because I like the way the loading bar looks. Anyways, that's the install process. So to summarize, I think I can make this really concise. The value proposition was I wanted people to install this app on their whole agency, and then I could show them value that they didn't realize they actually needed, like this reporting. Because it's kind of not obvious that you need this reporting, and there's built-in reporting, so you're like, why would I pay for reporting? So that's why I wanted to get people on the app at first using the call summaries as kind of hook and bait, and then get them using the dashboard. So I needed them to install it on their whole agency account, but they were only installing it on one account, which is a problem and means essentially I can't upsell people from call summaries or make a ton of money, because if it's one account, it's only going to be like $5 a month in profit, which is like fucked. It's like nothing. And the other thing is that AI call summaries is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, this app, High Level, has already added AI transcriptions. So when you finish a call, you have to turn it on, but it'll load a transcript into the messages board so you can see like the transcript from the call, but it doesn't do a summary. So I mean, a summary is one prompt away. I literally figured out how to do it built into the app. But yeah, like it's not gonna last forever, the call summaries, and it's just not something I want to build a business on top of, because I don't actually have a way to get users once call summaries goes away. I mean, it's not gonna be a super compelling offer. Pay for this dashboard that doesn't really do anything, right? Except for maybe send you emails. So, to reiterate, that's the problem. I can't get people to pay enough or to really see the value because it's just kind of a bad setup. So, let's talk about what we can do to fix this problem and so that next time things turn out better. All right. So I was writing this yesterday. I was on a walk. It's like, dude, I highly recommend walking. I do it every day for at least like 30 minutes. And especially after the 30-minute mark, you start to have actually really good like insights. Because I was writing this down and I was like, wow, that actually is kind of a significant problem. I'm also trying to justify a new project I really want to do. But I'm like, what would I do if I could like restart this project? And at first I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's a good strategy to acquire customers by, you know, offering call summaries, which is a novel feature and which solves a big problem. But I don't know how I'd upsell them. I think I'd just do the same thing. And I'm like, I think I would rather. So let's just see if I can show you this. If we go setup, once people install the app, if they don't have a card added, they'll land on this page. So if you're from YouTube, you just use code YouTube100, and then, oh yeah, that's to prevent mal intentions. But anyways, you would add a sign up credit and get credits. But what I was thinking is like, if instead of just, so they pay $0 and then they get like $100 in credits or whatever to test it out, right? But I think I'd rather have it be like they get $100 in credits to try it out, but they also sign up for a 30-day free trial of the dashboard where they can see like all their locations and all this stuff. And maybe the call summaries is way cheaper, you know? Because right now the call summaries, I'm hoping I can say this, you know, without doxing myself or whatever, but I have a 5 times multiplier on the cost of the AI call summaries, which means when someone, which means if the call summary itself costed like 5 cents, then I would charge the customer 25 cents, and then I would pay the 5-cent bill, and then it would be 20 cents in profit. What I'm thinking though is that's extremely expensive. I've had problems already where someone who installed it on all their sub accounts was getting charged like $1,000 a month. They were on track to hit like $1,000 a month, which is absolutely just not going to work. So it should be more like 1 times, like 1.1 or something, just to kind of break even on the call summaries, and then have the dashboard and the additional features like reporting be an upsell, be like a monthly fee. Because a monthly fee, I mean, I love pay-as-you-go usage, but the problem is like with a monthly fee, you can run a free trial and people are happy to do a free trial, and you can also get away with charging like $100 a month or something because people know how much it's going to be, whereas pay-as-you-go, I think there's sometimes a worry that it's just going to like run away on them. And not even like knowing how much it's going to cost in the first place, I had that fear as well. So yeah, I mean, essentially, that's like how I would do it again. But let's talk about the problem, okay? The problem is that when I started this app, I didn't know who my ideal user was. So there's essentially 3 types of users for high level. There's done for you agencies where they generate leads for you on Facebook or Instagram or Google, and then they call those leads for you and they set up like an appointment, or they have the contact, you know, like set up an appointment for a roofing consultation, or they come into the clinic, or whatever the case may be. The agency is doing a lot of that stuff for you. Those agencies can get really big. They're pretty complex, but they're hugely valuable for the customers. They grow really well. There's also done with you, where the agency runs the ads, but it's up to the client to actually call the leads. And then finally, there's like kind of SaaS or do it yourself, where you just sell the platform and then the users do everything. And the done for you is the not most profitable, but they have the biggest companies. And if I could do it again, I would choose to go after them, because the easiest way to make money is to like charge people who have a lot of it. And I wish I would have chosen them and then figured out what the ideal use would look like. And I could talk to them because I know some of those people, and I could be like, hey, so it looks like the hard part is knowing, if your VAs are doing a good job of following up with their leads, how can we make sure that we're solving that problem? Because yeah, I mean, that's like basically the thing to go after. And then finally, we talk about what the flow would look like, okay? Because if we go back to Stellar, the problem is I didn't know who my ideal user was. There's those 3 types of agencies. I'm like, I guess I'll find out who installs it. The ideal use, I thought I knew. So those are kind of all right. I mean, ideal use and ideal user, you can figure those out. But this one is a big problem. What would the flow look like of them wanting to pay money for it? So essentially, whenever someone installs like an app or uses a service or product, there's a story that's happening where they have some sort of emotion or they have some sort of problem, they want it solved, and at a certain point, there's enough tension where they pull out their card and they pay. And with my app, there isn't really that process. They install the app, and there's a very low barrier to entry. You just save a card, so it's like free basically to sign up, and then I can charge on the back end, which is great. But that's only a few dollars a month. And to get them to charge like a high amount, there has to be like some sort of emotional pain there for them to want to solve, and a dashboard is just not going to solve it. Really, nothing that I have in mind for this app is going to create like kind of enough emotional need for them to actually like take their card out and buy it. This, now we're 17 minutes into recording. This is the really main thing that I wish I would have thought about is, how do people discover your app? I mean, not even how, like there's multiple ways to kind of market it, but like what kind of mind space are they in when they discover your app? And then what's it look like where they go from discovering it to paying money? And you have to get that fucking down to a T. I mean, that's your sales process. That's everything to your business. Yeah, that's the thing I didn't think about, and that I wish I would have thought about. Because if I had thought about it hard enough, if I had gone for a 2-hour walk and focused on that, I might have figured out that, I mean, I want to preface this by saying you should always take action rather than not taking action and just overthinking. But because I'm happy that I built this app, but I might have figured out that people are only going to install it on their main account, and it's a really hard problem to solve to get them to go from installing it on one account to installing it on all accounts and getting paid for that. So yeah, that's the main thing I'm focusing on. You've probably heard that with SaaS, you should focus on the acquisition first. Like, how are you going to get customers? And if you're a programmer, if you're like a 10x engineer or something, or if you're kind of an introvert, you may hate that idea. You may not like the idea of having to think about how you're going to get customers. You may just want to build an awesome product and let them come. Which, fair enough. In some cases, that might work if there's like an app store with organic growth, but it's not going to work. I mean, the Apple App Store is fucked. If you launch like a random app today without marketing, it's not going anywhere. But yeah, so marketing is really a really good thing to think about, and marketing success comes down to this. This is what I heard from, I think his name is like the Ad Doctor or something on X and LinkedIn. And he's really good, and he was on a podcast, My First Million, and he said this: the success of your marketing is down to 2 things. First, the amount of emotion that your ad evokes, and then the number of people that it evokes it on. So if you're marketing to every single person in the world, then you're going to have a much higher success rate, much lower cost per acquisition than something that only appeals to a small number of the audience, right? So that's to say that if you're selling something to a tiny audience that has a very low emotional impact, you're going to have a much harder time. right? So that's why things for a small number of people are very niche and targeted, and they do a really good job of evoking emotion, the ones that succeed at least. So that's what you have to think about. That's what I'm going to be thinking about going into my next project. I'll be thinking, how do I evoke maximum emotion? How do I build the product so that the marketing can really draw people in and get them to take action? And then obviously I'll be thinking about what's that flow of them wanting to be pay money for it. It's not just can you solve a problem. Lots of products solve problems in some way. It's can you help people see that they have a problem that you're going to solve and get them in that scenario where they are able to pull their card out and pay for it. All right, and I just wrote that down because that's actually fire. In sales, one of the biggest things is helping people to see the problem that they didn't even know they had. And if your product can do that, especially in like the free trial phase where it matters, then hopefully they shouldn't have too many problems after they start paying for the app. But if you can help them to see their problems before they buy, they're going to be much more likely to buy and kind of stay as a customer. So yeah, I mean, this is really what I'd focus on. I also wrote, should you build an MVP? In my opinion, you fucker, dude, I thought it wasn't gonna work. In my opinion, I love building things, especially new things. I think building an MVP is extremely fun. It's like the fun part of the project when you're like building stuff brand new. But I would at least like spend a few hours kind of walking and just mulling over the idea. You know, a lot of ideas that you're gonna work on are gonna be something that's been in the back of your mind for like 6 months or a year, and you're finally like, okay, I think it's time to execute on this. So you should have a decent idea, but then I would really get concrete about what that flow looks like. I mean, this flow that we are looking at, where we are on this setup page, this setup, this was not predetermined. I had to come up with this. I had to go, okay, so when someone installs the app, they should land on a page like this. They should enter a code. It should be on this website. So you have to figure all this stuff out, and you have to figure out like how are you going to get people to be in the right situation to pay, because if you're sending them an email and you expect them to like go and pay, you're going to have a huge drop-off rate compared to collecting card info up front and then charging them on the back end without them having to do anything, right? So, yeah, I would at least get clear on how you're going to be building it, and then don't just dive in. And if you can, figure out. I mean, this is the main thing. Who's your ideal user? What does that use look like? And I mean, essentially, this part is saying, how are you going to convince them that they should pay for your product or service? I'm assuming you're building a SaaS, so you're going to have some sort of free trial or some sort of demo period, and you just want to think about, is using this, because like a lot of great software, you use it and something is so smooth that you didn't even realize it was a problem before. I'll give you an example. So I use this app called Things, and it's a to-do app built for like Apple products only. So it's written in Swift. It's written in like a really, it's basically designed exactly for Apple products. And when I move things around, it's fucking smooth, dude. It's amazing. It's excellent. Now, when I use something like Todoist, let's just go something I can show. If I were to move things around, I mean, it's just like a little bit clunky, and you have to make sure you're not like indenting it, which you can't really see. And when you start using like Things, which isn't my daily driver for a few reasons, but when you start using Things, you realize that moving things around was a problem, and you might have not even realized it in the first place. So it's so good that it makes you see problems in the old way of doing things. And I think you should aspire to have your product do that for your users, because apart from having good marketing that gets people interested to try it out, you have to have good kind of a good onboarding experience that gets people to realize that they want to pay money for your app. Because ultimately, everything that they pay for, they want to pay for. It's not like you're just tricking them and they're not getting much value. They should be getting disproportionate value, like 10 times the value that they're paying for. They should be experiencing. So, yeah. Hopefully this video wasn't too rambly. I'm amazed that you watched this far, and I hope it was super valuable because I think this is a huge lesson. I'm super glad I learned it. And you might have to just build a failing SaaS. I think everyone has to build like 5 projects that fail before they make a hit. But, yeah, I mean, I'll talk about my next product maybe in the next video, and we'll see. I'm about to go for a walk and just kind of iron this stuff out for my new project. And I am still kind of working on Stellar to wrap it up because I want to have it like a nice product on the App Store that people can install. It still makes money, it's fine, you know, but at the end of the day, like, it's not going to make me $100K a month. So I'm going to build something else. Yeah. All right. See you in the next video.